Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Deep Read. I'm Mike.
I'm Emily.
And today we are diving deep into We Were the Universe by Kimberly King Parsons.
Such a good one.
This book throws you right into the lives of these two sisters, Kit and Julie, growing up in West Texas.
Absolutely.
And it's told from their alternating perspectives, so you really get both of their unique voices and how their lives just kind of intertwine.
You do.
What really struck me about this book was how Parsons dives into some pretty heavy stuff.
Yes.
But she does it with this dark humor that makes it both captivating and, I don't know, strangely relatable.
Yeah, she's not afraid to show the messy, the contradictory parts of human nature.
Sure.
Like you meet Kit and she's this young mom dealing with all the challenges of raising her daughter Gilda, but she's also wrestling with these intrusive memories and this deep desire for escape.
And she's not like your typical cookie cutter mom, you know.
Not at all.
She's got this dry wit and a way of, let's say, embellishing the truth.
A little bit.
But then there's this fascination with the darker side of life, you know.
Yeah.
Like constantly seeking out these true crime podcasts and these fleeting encounters, it makes you wonder, like, what is she really searching for?
Totally. It's almost like she's trying to find some kind of control or understanding in the face of chaos by immersing herself in these external narratives of trauma and these, like, brief moments of intensity.
Right.
She's looking for a way to escape the anxieties and pressures of her everyday life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have Julie, who's this incredibly talented musician.
Yes.
But she's also battling addiction and mental health issues. And there's this underlying darkness that's always threatening to pull her under.
Yeah. What's so fascinating about Julie is that she represents this raw, untamed energy.
Yeah.
She's so deeply connected to music, but it's almost like it both fuels her and destroys her at the same time.
Which makes me think about this idea of don't let it get away from you.
Oh, yeah.
Which is this phrase that pops up throughout the book.
It does.
It was something that their mother used to say.
Right.
But it takes on these different meanings for each of them.
Totally.
So for Julie, it seems like it becomes an excuse for her self-destructive behavior.
Right.
But for Kit, it's almost like this fear of losing herself, of being consumed by the expectations of being a wife and a mother.
Absolutely. And that contrast is what makes their relationship so compelling. You know, they're both grappling with these intense emotions, but they're approaching them from completely different angles.
Right.
Kit seeks escape through these external means, while Julie seems to turn inwards, almost like she's trying to outrun her own demons.
Yeah, and let's not forget about the setting.
Yes.
West Texas.
West Texas.
Parsons describes it with this dark beauty, and it really feels like almost a character.
Totally. The vastness, the isolation, the harshness of the landscape. It all mirrors the internal struggles that Kit and Julie are going through. You can almost feel the weight of that environment pressing down on them, shaping their choices and their outlook on life.
Absolutely. Speaking of Kit,
there's
this one scene that really stood out to me. It's where she's talking about this childhood memory of her dad having to save her from a rattlesnake.
Oh, wow.
But what's weird is that she says that the photo they took right after of her dad holding her up has actually replaced the real memory in her mind.
That's such a powerful detail.
It is.
It speaks to this tendency she has to shield herself from difficult emotions. That photo becomes this barrier between her and the raw fear of that moment.
Right.
It's like she's choosing to remember the image of being safe rather than the experience itself.
It's almost like she's doing the same thing with the true crime podcasts, right?
Totally.
She's immersing herself in these stories of other people's trauma.
Yeah.
Maybe as a way to distance herself from her own pain.
It's a form of escapism, but it's also a way for her to try and make sense of the world.
Yeah.
To understand the darkness that exists both outside and within herself.
And it's not just the podcast.
Yeah.
There's that scene at the park where she's watching this kid named Riley having a meltdown.
Okay.
And she says that screaming is his very favorite thing to do. And it felt like she was projecting something onto him.
Okay.
Maybe seeing a bit of her sister Julie in his outbursts.
Oh, absolutely. It's like she's constantly searching for echoes of Julie in the people around her.
Right.
Even if those connections are a bit of a stretch, it speaks to the profound impact that Julie's absence has had on her life and how she's still trying to grapple with that loss.
There's also that scene where she describes watching these teenagers skateboarding
Okay.
and getting a rush from imagining them getting hurt.
Interesting.
It's like she's seeking out these moments of danger and intensity as a way to feel alive,
Yeah.
even if it's just through the experiences of others.
And this ties back to that idea of control, doesn't it?
Yeah.
By witnessing these near misses, by immersing herself in the potential for chaos,
Yeah.
she's almost trying to prepare herself for the unexpected to create a sense of order in a world that often feels unpredictable.
But even with all this darkness,
Yeah.
there are moments of real tenderness
Yeah.
in her relationship with her husband, Jad.
Jad is such an interesting character. He's presented as this stable grounding force in Kit's life.
Yes, he is.
He's patient, understanding, and almost seems to accept her flaws without judgment.
Like when he finds out about her late-night internet searches,
Right.
he's more concerned about her sleep than about the content that she's looking at.
Exactly. It makes you wonder if he's maybe a little too good to be true.
Right.
Is it possible for one person to truly be an anchor for another?
Mm,
Or are we all just drifting along in our own ways?
that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it brings us to another fascinating aspect of Kit's story, her relationship with her own mother.
Her mother's hoarding is a major source of tension.
Yes.
It's not just clutter, it represents this overwhelming sense of chaos that Kit is constantly trying to escape.
There's that scene where she describes her mother's house as my mother's mess.
Right.
And it's like this physical manifestation of the burden she's carrying.
Totally.
She even imagines tripping over a plate and breaking her leg,
Oh, wow.
which feels symbolic of how her mother's disarray is threatening to break her down.
And her mother's reaction is so telling.
Right.
She just dismisses Kit's concerns, calling the piles of stuff good dowels and saying she has ways to go where I go.
Right.
It highlights the disconnect between them, how Kit craves order and control,
Yeah.
while her mother seems content living in this world of her own making.
It's almost like they're both searching for the same thing,
Right.
a sense of peace,
Mm-hmm.
but they're going about it in completely opposite ways.
And that's what makes their dynamic so intriguing. It's
Yeah.
a constant push and pull between order and chaos,
Mm-hmm.
between the desire for escape and the need to confront the realities of life.
It's like a microcosm of the larger themes
Exactly.
that Parsons is exploring throughout the book.
And as we delve further into Kit's story, we'll see how these themes continue to play out in her relationships, her choices, and her evolving sense of self.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting how Kit seeks that stability with Jad,
Yeah.
especially considering the chaos of her mother's life.
Right.
It's like she's drawn to him because he represents everything her mother isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Calm, collected, reliable.
Yeah. And he seems to provide this safe space for her even when she's being,
What way?
let's just say, a bit unconventional.
A little bit.
Like when she tells him about biting that guy Pete's tongue,
Oh, yeah.
Jad's more worried about her needing a tetanus shot
Right.
than judging her for the act itself.
Exactly. He's incredibly understanding, almost to a fault.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if maybe that's part of what frustrates Kit, too.
Right.
Maybe she needs a little more pushback, a little more friction to ignite something within her.
That's a really interesting point. It's like she's craving this intensity, this spark that she's not finding in her marriage.
Yeah.
Even though Jad clearly loves and supports her.
Think about that trip she takes with Pete to Montana.
Oh, yeah.
It's supposed to be about him getting over his breakup,
Right.
but it ends up being this catalyst for Kit to confront her own desires and anxieties.
Totally.
Yeah.
And remember that scene with the water witch at the airport?
Oh my gosh.
It's hilarious how Parsons sets that up.
It is.
This woman is offering palm readings,
Right.
talking about exquisite embryos.
It's so funny.
It's like this parody of New Age spirituality.
It is.
But there's also this sadness to her, this loneliness
Yeah.
that both Kit and Pete seem to recognize.
Right. They see through the absurdity, but they also connect with her on a human level,
Yes.
which speaks to their own vulnerability.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of vulnerability, there's a similar dynamic in Kit's fascination with Bad Dad at the park.
Oh, yeah.
This guy is like the antithesis of responsible parenting.
Yeah.
Letting his kid run wild without a helmet and all that.
Breaking all the rules.
Yeah. And yet Kit is drawn to him.
Right.
Like, what is it about this guy
Yeah, what is it?
that she finds so compelling?
It's so interesting.
She even fantasizes about having an affair with him,
Wow.
which is so out of character for her, at least on the surface.
Right.
It's like she's trying to rebel against everything that represents
Hmm.
stability and order in her life.
It's that push and pull again.
Yeah.
She craves the safety and security of her marriage, but she also yearns for something more.
Yeah.
Something that ignites that spark within her.
And she seems to be searching for that spark in other ways, too.
Yeah.
Remember her interactions with Celadon?
Okay.
That stylish, braless mom at the gymnastics studio?
Celadon represents this unapologetic confidence that
Yes.
Kit both admires and envies.
Yes.
There's that scene where Kit describes feeling undone by the unexpected absolute certainty of
Yeah.
Celadon's exposed breasts.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than just a physical attraction. It's about her being drawn to Celadon's sense of self-assurance, her ability to embrace her femininity and her motherhood without apology.
And then out of nowhere, Celadon asks Kit if she's ever done ecstasy.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a bold move.
Such a bold move.
And you can almost feel Kit's hesitation before she admits to having tried it.
Yeah.
But there's also this sense that she's testing boundaries,
Totally.
pushing the limits of what's acceptable, almost like she's trying to reclaim a part of herself that she feels like she's lost.
Right. And it all circles back to that phrase, don't let it get away from you.
Yeah.
For Julie, it becomes this justification for her self-destructive behavior. But for Kit, it's this fear of being swallowed up by the roles she's supposed to play.
Totally.
Wife, mother, daughter.
Right.
She's searching for a way to hold onto her own identity, to find her own voice in the midst of all these expectations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like she's navigating this tightrope between responsibility and freedom.
Yeah.
And that's where Julie's story becomes even more crucial. It's told in these fragments, these glimpses into her past.
Right.
And as we read, we start to piece together this portrait of a woman who's both brilliant and deeply troubled.
Totally.
Right from the start, we see her talent for music.
Yes.
She has this ability to create these haunting melodies that draw people in. But it's also clear that music is both a source of comfort
Right.
and a source of pain for her.
Think about that scene where she's recording music with Kit and their friend.
Yes.
And she keeps wandering away from the microphone.
Yeah.
She's lost in her own world, almost like she's on the verge of disappearing.
Right.
And it leaves Kit in just scrambling to figure out what to do.
It's as if her music is this force that she can't quite control.
Yeah.
And it's both exhilarating and terrifying for her.
Right.
She craves that connection it brings.
Yeah.
But she's also terrified of being exposed, being judged.
And that fear is only amplified by her addiction.
Right.
As it takes hold,
Right.
her music becomes both a refuge and a tormentor. It allows her to escape the pain, but it also reminds her of her inability to break free from these destructive patterns.
Remember that disturbing image she describes
Oh,
of
yeah.
having goblet thoughts?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Where she wants to smash a wine glass and use the shards to cut herself?
It's chilling.
It is.
It shows just how deep her despair runs.
And it's heartbreaking because you can see how much Kit cares for her,
yeah.
how desperately she wants to help.
Right.
But Julie pushes her away,
Yeah.
refusing to acknowledge the severity of her addiction.
It's that classic scenario of wanting to save someone who doesn't want to be saved.
It is.
And it creates this feeling of helplessness, not just for Kit, but for us as readers, too.
Yes.
We see the tragedy unfolding, but we're powerless to stop it.
And that sense of helplessness underscores the power of Parsons' storytelling.
Yeah.
She doesn't shy away from the difficult realities of addiction and the ripple effects it has
Right.
on those who love and care for the addict.
Exactly.
And even though Julie's story is ultimately a tragic one, it's not without its moments of beauty and connection.
Right. Like when Kit visits Julie's apartment after she's gone missing.
Yes.
And she can still feel Julie's presence lingering in the air,
Mm-hmm.
in the objects she's left behind.
Or when Kit reflects on their childhood, remembering the moments of shared joy and laughter,
Right.
the bond that was forged in the face of adversity.
Those memories highlight the enduring power of their sisterly bond,
Yes.
even in the face of loss and heartbreak.
And it makes you think about the ways in which our connections to others continue to shape us.
Yeah.
Even after they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Their absence leaves a void, but it also leaves behind these indelible marks on who we are and how we navigate the world.
And that's what makes We Were the Universe such a powerful and resonant novel.
Yes.
It's a story about loss and grief,
Yeah.
but it's also a story about resilience, about finding meaning and beauty even in the darkest of places. You know, it's interesting how Parsons weaves Julie's narrative into the story. It's like these puzzle pieces scattered throughout. And as you read, you start to assemble this picture of who she was. The brilliance and the darkness, the joy and the pain.
And one of the things that really struck me about Julie was her complicated relationship with music.
Oh, yeah.
She had this raw talent, but it seemed like it was both a source of salvation and a source of torment for her.
Music was her escape, her way of transcending the everyday realities of life.
Right.
But it was also deeply personal, a way for her to process her emotions, her pain, her anxieties.
Yeah.
And that made it incredibly difficult for her to share with the world.
There's that scene where she describes performing live
Oh, yeah.
and feeling completely exposed.
Like she's jerking off into a cup.
Yeah, it's such a raw and vulnerable image.
It is.
And it speaks to her deep-seated fear of judgment, of
Gosh.
not being good enough.
And you can see how that fear is amplified by her addiction.
Right.
As her life spirals.
Yeah.
Her music becomes both a refuge and a reminder of her inability to control her own desires. It's a constant battle between wanting to create and wanting to escape, between wanting to connect and wanting to disappear.
And Kit sees all of this happening.
Right.
She recognizes the danger signs, but she's powerless to stop it.
It's tough.
There's that heartbreaking scene where she calls Julie from college.
Okay.
And she hears this hollowed-out sound in her voice.
Yeah.
And she just knows that something is terribly wrong.
But Julie brushes her off, making jokes about her addiction being like an electric wheelchair.
Right.
She's pushing Kit away, building walls around herself, and it creates this sense of helplessness.
Yeah.
Not just for Kit, but for the reader, too.
It's like you're watching this train wreck in slow motion.
Right.
And you know it's headed for disaster.
Yeah.
But there's nothing you can do to stop it.
And that's what makes Julie's story so tragic.
It is.
She had this incredible potential, this light within her.
Right.
But it was ultimately extinguished by her own demons.
But even in the midst of all that darkness, Parsons manages to weave in these moments of beauty and connection, particularly in the relationship between Kit and Julie.
Absolutely.
Like when Kit talks about finding Julie's wads,
Oh, yeah.
those little symbols meant to manifest desires scattered throughout her apartment.
It's a poignant detail.
It is.
It speaks to Julie's yearning for something more, something she couldn't quite grasp.
And the fact that she kept them instead of destroying them,
Right.
As you're supposed to do in occult practices,
Yeah.
suggests this inability to let go, to release the grip of her desires.
Right.
It's like those wads became physical manifestations of her unfulfilled dreams,
Yeah.
haunting her even after she was gone.
And then there's that scene where Kit goes back to Julie's apartment after she's gone missing, and she can still feel Julie's presence there,
Yeah.
in the objects she left behind and the lingering scent of her perfume.
It's both heartbreaking and beautiful.
It is.
And it speaks to the enduring power of their connection.
Those moments remind us that even in death, the people we love continue to shape us, to influence who we become.
Right.
Their absence leaves a void, but it also leaves behind these indelible marks on our hearts and minds.
So what does this all mean for you as we wrap up this deep dive into We Were the Universe? What resonated most? Was it Kit's yearning for escape?
Yeah.
Julie's tumultuous relationship with music?
Burn.
Or the powerful depiction of the sisterly bond that endures even in the face of tragedy?
We encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth discussions of captivating reads.
Yes.
And if you haven't already, we highly recommend picking up a copy of We Were the Universe.
Absolutely.
It's a journey you won't soon forget.
Until next time, happy reading.